What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It's September 23rd, 2024. It's 4:01 in the afternoon, and that stank-ass market is closed. Today's going to be a pretty short video. I know that excites some of you, but I am going to briefly explain why today was difficult, at least in my opinion, and we did manage to find one trade that I felt comfortable enough talking about in advance. But I'll show you guys all that. But there's only one trade suggestion or opportunity that we saw and felt pretty good about on today's chart. We did have call lines and put lines that we didn't feel comfortable taking. Right before open, we had Qs gap up after being in a downtrend leading into the open. This made me hesitant on puts or calls. Ultimately, we did break the pre-market low line of the Qs and headed down to the next support. However, at that time, ADD was already finding a bottom. So ADD opened very green, aggressively sold off, found some support, and started to move up. There was nothing about today's chart that I felt good about. And here's what happens. As the day progresses, especially if we don't get expected moves. Like the chart wasn't behaving like it normally does. I don't know if that's just me. It seems to be community-wide. In our community, a lot of people just didn't feel comfortable taking a trade. Qs were in a very tight range leading through most of the day. I mean, SPY only had a $2 move, $2.20 range today as a whole, which is pretty low considering what it usually is these days. We found two very strong levels of support and resistance on the Qs that once we got to them, you had to be very, very cautious about what you were doing if you wanted to stay in these trades. The first one we found pretty quickly was down here, this green box. I kept dragging it sideways, reminding everybody, guys, if you happen to be in puts, when we get near this line down here, this box, please consider taking yourself out of puts. If anything, tighten up your stops in case it reacts to that level and continues to go back in the other direction. As you can see, it never got really below it. I mean, it did right into a whole bunch of levels as a support we had down there. But for the most part, that green area was a no-no zone for puts. Likewise, the red area up top, it was struggling to get through it most of the time when we were in there. It did break out of it a little bit, a couple of times. But after several attempts and a whole lot of trading sideways, we tightened up really, really tight going into the close today. Now, the one trade right before I went to lunch that we talked about and the one trade we were concerned with or speaking of was right here on SPY. Now, again, I know you look at this and you say, oh, but Jimmy, this is a clear uptrend day. There's nothing clear about this. These pullbacks were nasty. For the way we trade, these pullbacks after hitting resistances, supports, were big candles, right? These would stop a lot of our trades out, okay? We're not trading longer time frames. We're not swing trading here. Yes, so these moves, whipsaws, back and forth, quickly, aggressively, not good for what we do, okay? Now, with that said, when you have enough of this and you do find yourself in the section of a chart that's seemingly trading or moving like we would expect it to, what's the first thing that happens, at least to me anyway, and I'm sure it happens to other people? You no longer trust the chart because if you tried to trust it every time on the way up, you probably took a loss. You probably got punched in the mouth, right? Once you see a crappy chart for long enough, it makes it very, very difficult to trust it when it's no longer a crappy chart. Again, maybe this is just me, but it gets more and more difficult to trade when you've got something that looks like what we witnessed today because it's hard to have confidence. Now, the trade that we did find that ended up being what I would consider to be one of the cleanest moves of the day was, and I said it right before we went to lunch, I said, guys, we're coming off lower highs on the Qs. If the Qs can get below 483.40, sorry, I didn't mean to move that, which was right here, we'd be looking for that to at least come down to 482.95. Okay. If it gets through that, we'd be looking down to, keep moving these lines, this blue pre-market low. And if it gets through that, we'd be looking for the green area. If we get down to the green area, you're going to want to consider taking yourself out, at the very least, tighten up those stops. Okay. Well, on SPY, that time was also pulling back, coming off of lower highs, pulling back to resistance. We're expecting support to fail, not hold. If you took that ride from the entry point because the Qs broke support and they made it down to the no-no spot, the green area on the chart, on their chart, you got to take that entire move down. Now, I had some people take that. Some people got in a little later. Some people got out a little earlier. 45+% return on that trade. Definitely took some patience to wait for that to happen. But at that point, I also believe ADD was starting to trend down a little bit. What time was that? It's right around 12 o'clock, 12:07, I think. 12:08. So at 12:08 on the Q, on Qs, yes, on ADD, sorry. We were recognizing that the Qs were also making a move to the downside, pulled back a little bit, lower high on this on ADD as well, and it continued to leg down. So everything was in confluence with each other at that time. You just had to wait for it to happen. That is not the trade I took. I forced a trade today about 9:57 this morning. I was getting impatient. I made this abundantly clear before I took the trade. I said, guys, I think I'm interested in taking puts up here at this blue line, our pre-market high on SPY. And I would like to believe we're going to head down to this support down here. It was also support on the Qs. And yeah, unfortunately, it took the 10 o'clock candle to give us that. Wasn't a huge win. That was about an 18% win for me, but I did get in at 9:57, got out somewhere during the printing of this candle at 10 o'clock. And that was it for me. So not a trade I'm proud of. I would say I was lucky considering I held through a 10 o'clock candle and it went my way. Also took the trade out of complete impatience. Again, if you were in the room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I tell you guys all the time, if I don't take my trades quickly and I start to wait for the chart, especially if it's a chart like this, I end up feeling like I'm not going to ever take a trade. So I force the trade. This is a problem of mine. I'm well aware of it. And when I know that I'm about to take a trade, I probably shouldn't, i.e. close to 10 o'clock, which I was really not paying attention to the time, got reminded after I got in. And the fact that I was looking at a chart I didn't really like. All I knew is that I was going to get in because we had resistance on the Qs or on SPY, and I was going to get out if SPY closed above the pink line. That was the only criteria I had. The odds were not stacked in my favor. This is a trade I would not normally take other than my complete lack of patience. So yes, I did get it. Yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, I got lucky because the 10 o'clock went temporarily in my direction. And no, I wasn't going to F around to find out. Okay, so not a huge trade. Got lucky, all of that. But the one trade that I didn't feel was luck was the one we found that ended up being a nice 45+% return for those who took it. After that, guys, you got to recognize that this was trash. Qs was not moving. SPY was not moving. Yes, this might be a dream chart for some of you. For me, it is far, far, far from it. So congrats to you if you made money today. We did have a rough day in the community. When I say rough, we were still green. But we fell shy of even 2-1, which is very unusual for us. I wish there was more blue books today. For those of you who are not new or who are new to watching, blue books in our community means you didn't take any trades today, which really should have been the case for me as well, considering I don't typically trade after 12 o'clock. So I would probably not have taken this trade either. But I don't know, because had I not taken a trade all day and I did see that setup, maybe I would have taken this because of that. But normally I'm done way before 12 o'clock. So it's not usually a concern for me, the late day trades. However, that's pretty much it, guys. Towards the end of this week, I think we're going to get some nice movement out of the chart because we got a lot of reports and a lot of things coming out. But as far as I'm concerned, the market, the surprise is gone, right? Think about everything that makes the market volatile. It's the unknown. It's the unknown. You don't know if the Fed's going to cut rates. You don't know how much they're going to cut them. You don't know what Jerome Powell's going to say. You don't know what's going to happen behind closed doors with the Feds. You don't know which company's going to react a certain way to certain news, geopolitical news, and all that stuff. You don't know about wars. We don't know about a lot of things. But when it comes to the market in the unexpected, when are the rate cuts going to start? Well, they've started. So my opinion is that the surprise is over. Okay, we are not waiting for whether it's going to happen now or later, or how aggressive it's going to be or not be. We're not worried about the labor market apparently anymore because the Fed says everything's good. You and I don't feel like everything's good, but that's besides the point, right? Everything's fine. Don't worry about anything. But at the end of the day, we might see more days of tighter ranges until there's new unexpecteds or new potential surprises. But until then, we're just going to have to try and play what the market gives us and try and be responsible with our money and hopefully make a couple dimes along the way. With that said, we're going to wrap it up. Hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, we'd love to have you. The first week is completely free. If you like what you get for that week, we'll consider becoming a paying member. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys had a fantastic day. Till tomorrow, I love you. See ya!